like I said, that you don't have a choice, as if you ever had a choice. So, all right, and the 3, and the 2, and the 1, and we were already live like a minute ago.
That's all right. Got to start up somehow.
I feel like people love hearing like just how like all the banter before.
Yes.
It's like it's just nonsense.
I wish I was high.
Oh boy, yeah. Sometimes, especially after the day we had, it's been sometimes it'd be good just to be like, okay, go home, take a nap.
We need a hot tub here.
Somebody actually thought that they would sell the chief on getting a sauna room here. I guess there's some pretty credible research out there that after a structure fire,
the toxins out.
Yes, and so that was what they were. It didn't go anywhere. Clearly,
Well,
I mean,
clearly, but you know what? I wouldn't be opposed.
I mean, I wouldn't either. The bigger question was, where are you going to put it? No one could quite answer that question. So,
Fair.
I mean, I guess you could just take Chief's office.
Yeah, sorry, Chief. You're out. You're in the closet. You're in the supply closet.
I feel like that's how most Chief's offices start in a lot of departments. They start in a closet somewhere,
Yep.
and then as the department grows, they get themselves an actual office.
Yes.
Find themselves a space. So, oh boy. So, how are you doing? Besides, I beat you up today a little bit. So,
Not really. I mean, we had a lot of stuff to get done today.
yeah. No, I was really helpful to have one more person helping with the training building and actually putting that back together. There's still a lot to do down there,
But it's coming along.
Yes, and all the stuff's not sitting out there anymore. So
Yeah,
it
made some people happy.
will make some people happy. The people who do all the mowing here.
Yep.
Which, I mean, if you just let us do it, I mean, we wouldn't care one way or the other.
Just like we used to do.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because I hear all this thing. It's like, oh, you need a little bit more to do and whatnot. Well, you took away one of the biggest things. It takes probably a good 3 hours or so.
Yeah, we got 5 acres here.
Yeah. I mean, he was out there the entire time that we were. It wasn't until we came back for that call he was gone.
Yeah.
Finally, like he was out here for a long time.
He was,
and we started working down there about 9:00. So, but yeah, no, it's yeah. But that being said, too, it's that now you don't have to worry about anyone telling you, hey, the grass is getting high or getting pedantic over that because
I'd be like, I'll bring my weed eater.
Just a bunch of billy goats. We're a farming community. Just let them free range.
Dear Chief, we would like to acquire 5 goats for the backyard.
Thank you. I know where we can get goats.
I know too.
I know. We can find ourselves a goat.
I know where we can go get some cows. They'll eat more than the goats.
Oh, I could only imagine just the look on She's face. It comes in like there's just cows in the back. Oh boy! In all fairness, we tried the whole garden thing. It didn't work out very well. Gardens at fire departments never work out well.
Not unless everybody is in it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, even full-time department, some of the guys in one of the stations tried to start a garden, and it lasted for like a month. And then those were the saddest pepper plants I think you've ever seen. They did pick them. They did pick them, to be fair, but they look so sad.
We did a garden at our full-time job, my full-time, and actually everybody stayed up on it surprisingly, and we got a lot of tomatoes. I think we probably had 200 cucumbers.
We have a peanut gallery. He's spraying stuff into the fan. Okay, I think we need to start this before it goes too far off the rails. We're already going the wrong direction here.
Hey, you got to start off somehow.
At least it's not the fart spray.
Oh God,
that would be terrible.
Thank you. Thank gosh. All right.
So tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about experience, and we kind of talked about experience before. what it means. I guess what it means in the sense of being senior, but tonight is more so. It's more than just your asset. It's what you actually do with that experience that matters. And I think that this is something we can all we can all think about. Somebody who will say it's like, oh, I've been running the ladder truck for the last 10 years, or oh, I've been in a hazmat team, or I've got a whole laundry list of different schools and classes that that I've done, but then they don't really do anything with them either. Right. So I think that's kind of the direction we're gonna go here.
Something smelled funny.
I hear you. You rip here for a second.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can have all these different certs that you want, but until you get the experiences and the time doing that, what does that say? And if you're like, oh, we'll take hazmat for instance. Oh, I'm on the hazmat team, and
we're gonna pause here for a second. We'll be back. Okay, we're back
on track now.
Are we back on track though?
Every time we do this here, something happens.
I can smell it. I can smell it.
I can too.
I can smell it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible.
No, but
we can still smell.
Speaking of experiences, yeah, just bringing back up some almost PTSD-like experiences. What are you doing to my computer?
Cleaning the dust off of it.
It doesn't need the dust cleaned off.
Yeah, it does. Back to your experiences.
The experience of you trying to recast the entire water can.
No.
So it took you 10 minutes to show them how to do something in 5.
Yeah. Gotta go slow.
So, yes, okay. So back to experiences. And it's, we collect pieces of paper. We collect all these things that say that we can do stuff or we have time to job. But there's more than just having the time in the job than just having those pieces of paper that's important.
Like you said, having the time on the job and having a piece of paper doesn't mean you have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's just say, okay, let's take New York for an example.
Okay.
They're one of the busiest departments in the country.
Yes.
Them guys that have been doing the job for 20 years, they got the experience.
Yes.
You can have the same guy at a department somewhere else, 20 years experience, has maybe been on those same exact calls maybe 2 or 3 times those 20 years.
Yes.
They don't have the experience.
Yes. Well, but then it also goes too, is so what do a lot of New York City guys, a lot of guys from LA, Pittsburgh, DC, they're doing books. They go to FDIC, FDNY. They go to themselves.
Yeah.
They go to FDIC FDIC. They go to Jackson Fire Expo. I'm all buggered up now. But they go and they talk about those experiences, those things that they've done to share them with everything. Even small departments.
Yeah.
You got guys who, hey, I have a niche in something like grain silos, for example, and it's not just, hey, I've gone to these types of fires or emergencies. I'm going to take that experience and actually do more with it than just say I had it.
Exactly. And they're teaching the next generation or the current generation as well, because they have, say, those silos in their area.
Yeah.
The more you know about that situation, the better you're going to serve your department and your community with that as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, and it's what boggles my mind too is just that, just because maybe you haven't gone on all those types of emergencies and whatnot. This is something that's big here, this department, but really any department. If you go to a class, so you go get your hazmat tech, you go for your swift water rescue or whatever. You come back, first of all, you just became the subject matter expert in that particular topic. Second of all, you're also expected to come back and teach oftentimes what you learned, or at least something you learned, to the betterment of everyone around you.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're the only one that is taking that class. Like you said, you're the expert on that subject now, and you may not be around if there's a swift water rescue that has to be done. Now you have to teach them so they have at least a baseline idea of how to do it and do it safely.
Yeah. I think I've told the story before, but when I was in the 192nd Quartermaster Company, I told many of my soldiers, hey, one day Sergeant Copeland won't be here. I've told it just comes back up because it's great for me to know how to do all kinds of stuff in a
Mhm.
quartermaster company. That's awesome. Good for me. It doesn't mean anything whenever I leave next year or next month or whenever, and I leave all the Joes and they got no idea how to do those things because I had the experience. I never gave it to them.
Exactly. And if you don't get that experience, who are you helping?
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
You have to share your experience. It's like with the new guys here.
Mhm.
We've been working hard with them. We're sharing our experiences and showing that the old guys can still do it.
Looking at them as we're saying it.
But we have to share our experiences and what we know and how we've learned to do it better or more efficiently, you know?
Absolutely. Well, one of the best ways I've found to do this is like an AAR type scenario. So you go and do something. So the case in point here, looking over at you again, is we're hitting a hydrant. It's like, okay, hey, let's talk about what we did from start to finish, how it looks now, how it could look, and what you could do to make your life easier. That's an easy way to pass on the experience.
Yeah.
You don't have to have done it at a fire, but if you've hit a hydrant 15 times, you got that wherewithal in that experience.
Yeah, and repetitions as well is going to help out big time.
Yeah.
You know, that helped when I first started here. I had a lot of repetitions of going and doing things over and over and over again. And honestly, I could probably do a lot of things with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah. Well, and then you also have to have somebody who has the experience over you to come and say, hey, yeah, you're doing this. Now, this is how you take yourself to the next level. When you're in fire school, I care about, did you just connect to a hydrant? Could you just manage to pull the cross like, cool, give you a check mark. As you get further in your career, I start looking at nuanced things. Okay, so you hit the hydrant, but you took time to like go from a lug to top, and then next cap to top, and then next cap to top. It's like, okay, we can clean up some of these nuanced areas to make you much smoother, much faster, versus taking everything one step at a time and eating up all your time.
Yeah, because like you said, in fire school, that's what they teach you. Yeah. Now you're in the real world now. Those seconds count too. The more faster you are, the more efficient, you're going to better everyone. Yeah. Especially like if you're using your deck gun on your truck, you got minutes. Yeah. That's it. Minutes. You want to get that hydrant open up, flushed, hooked up as fast as you can. Because you don't have much time.
No. And then that's where someone with more experience comes in and is able to coach you, mentor you, and say, hey, okay, so cool. You accomplish a task. Here's how we can make that better.
Yes.
Or it's like, okay, show me another way to do it. Because that's one thing that I think experience teaches us, and we forget. We learn all the tricks of doing things different ways. And then we kind of snub younger guys when they come on because they don't know all the tricks and all the quick, fast ways to do things.
Right. I mean, heck, I've been finding little shorts on YouTube of different hose deployments and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's genius. That's something that we can learn and why we would use it and when we would use it, you know, then we can pass that on. Would we ever use it? Probably not, but it's a good tool to have in your toolbox.
Well, you hit on something really important there because whenever I do a lot of trainings or do my trainings, I should say, I talk about like seeing the TikToks and the YouTube videos and whatnot, and I in a certain way discredit them because I say, you know, there's all kinds of different ways, like forcible entries. That's the last training I did. Yep. And one of the things I said is that why we make forcible entry so hard is because we watch somebody on TikTok who like becomes a master forcing their forcible entry prop door. Yeah, you practice on a door enough, you could basically look at it. It's going to open out sheer respect or fear. So I mean, but you hit on something really important there, where it's like you're learning about if it would work, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, but you can see how it could, and it just gives you something to think about. Yeah, even if you don't use it.
Exactly. Like I was intrigued by this load. I'm like, okay, like I can see it as like if you need like an extension of your hand line, and instead of, you know, just grabbing something off, it's a big old circle. Yeah. You know, and then you just let it flow and it just undoes itself. And like it was intriguing.
the more I think about that, I think of something that you would use like a high rise almost. Like you
Yeah.
put it on the landing,
Yes.
and then you charge it, and then it uncoils there
Yeah.
as you advance.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's that. Yes.
As you advance the stairs. That's,
Yeah. You know, because that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
But look where we are. We don't have high rises.
No, but I can think of one place we could use that is the church. That church has got 4 floors,
Yes.
not including the attic space there, and it has a narrow corridor. It's supposed to be like a main like a main exit kind of deal, a main exit, but it ends up being the thoroughfare getting to all the different floors.
I mean, honestly, it would work there.
Yeah, that would be a great place to use that.
I'm gonna have to find it one day, and we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah. Well, and so there comes on what the experience of like, okay, I can see this. How does it work? Because a lot of times too, when you see TikTok videos like that, you see the aftermath of after we've set up, and maybe it looks good because it looks cool once it's set up, but how manpower intensive is it to set that up?
Right.
You know, and those are things that need to be shared too.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to share everything. You can't half-ass it either. You gotta give it your all. You gotta teach it your all.
Yeah.
Because if you skip steps, it may not work.
Yeah. Or there might be certain steps in there that are added in just for the flair of the camera, for the clout, if you will.
True.
That it's like you don't need to do those things.
Yeah. Because keep it simple, stupid.
Yes. Well, and I think this really starts to hone in on the point of like where experience is not just the asset. It's it's what doing something with it. Is that when you learn those keep it simple, stupid kind of moments, you also have to remember how you learned that too. Most of us learned, as my granddad would call it, by the school of hard knocks. We make the mistakes and we're like, oh, hey, I'm not going to do that again. That's for sure.
Yep.
And you got to remember, some other people are going to have to learn that exact same way. But sometimes it's, who was it? I think I might have brought this up. It was either on podcast here or in conversation. Adam Savage was talking once about learning to do new tasks and not having the right tools to do it. And a good mentor, he said, would not always give the answer, but say, hey, go ahead and try and do that thing. Come back to me in an hour.
That was the last podcast we discussed. Yeah. Yes.
It applies again, same principle. It's like sometimes like your experience also has to say, it's like, I know when to stop talking and stop trying to teach you something and just let you go do it. And I'll wait for you to come back and say, okay, how do you do that again? Why do we do it this way?
Like me growing up, my grandpa, he would, here, go do this. Can't do it, come back.
Yeah.
Couldn't do something. He's like, all right, I'm going to tell you a trick. Try it this way and see how it works.
Yeah.
Then come back.
Makes a total difference.
Yep. Yeah. He would let me try it and let me fail. And then, all right, now you're going to try these steps.
Yeah.
And it's going to work. And they would.
Well, and it's now that his experiences have now become yours, because usually there's a story behind every single one of those reasons why they do it that way.
Exactly.
So,
like when I would go up to his farm in Pennsylvania, putting up the fence around his property sucked. 10 acres of fencing, terrible. What he gave me he going out put fencing in. I just took a shovel.
Yeah.
It wasn't working very well.
No.
And you got to dig deep for those posts.
There might be a tool out there specifically for that.
Yeah, called an auger.
I was thinking post hole digger, but yeah, I mean, that'd be far more efficient even than that for 10 acres worth of fence.
Yeah. I didn't know he had an auger, but he's like, you don't got that hole dug yet? No. Come with me. I'm going to show you something simple. Hold tight. Let it do its work.
Yeah.
Man, still a lot of work, but a lot more efficient.
Yeah. Well, and then too, it's like sometimes, and this kind of goes back to the whole TikTok thing. So we learn the new tactics, new techniques, and whatnot. As I die here. Sorry, as I die. We learn the new techniques and tactics and these things. We don't have anyone to really coach us and how to best deploy them, or hey, maybe there's a piece to this we're missing that we can't do it that way. Here's why. But oftentimes what I get is even if somebody doesn't audibly scoff at you for doing it, you can tell in the tone of their voice, like, how could you be so stupid not to figure this out or not to know this?
Yeah.
It's like, well, because you never taught me. I never learned that.
Yeah. You got to teach me that.
Yeah.
We're not mind readers.
Mhm.
If you see me doing something that's going to be harder
Mhm.
for it, hey, stop. Let me show you something.
Yeah.
Make it so much easier on you.
That's where it becomes really important too. Like when you've been at any job, not even fire service, any job,
Yeah.
for 15 years, you become quite the master of it. Was it
Mhm.
10,000 hours to become an expert in any given field or any given practice? So 15 years, you should be quite the grandmaster by then. You see somebody who makes a very common garden variety mistake,
Mhm.
and you apply your, oh, I have 15 years of knowledge. I know how common garden variety that is. I'm going to get frustrated, and I'm going to kind of come to you with the air of, I know better. I'm going to make sure you know I know better, and you should have known better.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, but they don't have the 15 years.
Exactly.
You do. They got maybe 15 months, 15 weeks,
Or 15 days.
15 days. How could they possibly have known that?
Yeah. Or it's their first day
Yeah.
and they have nothing but from what they learned in their classes
Mhm.
and in their books.
Yeah.
Like my full-time job, about a month ago, working with some people that they have experience, but
Mhm.
barely have any 911 experience.
Yeah.
So it's like they're doing this. I was like, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple discharge.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you why we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, why? And I explained to them why. And they're like, okay, that makes sense. I was like, I'm not going to steer you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
These patients know themselves better than we do.
Mm-hmm.
Trust them to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah. The asterisks there.
Yeah. But, I'm from what my almost 15 years experience, I'm given to them because I see what they're doing. I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's stop. Let's think. Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you why we're not, or I'm going to tell you how to do it even better.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too is that if you, and I'm gonna kind of maybe steer the ship in a certain direction. If you learn some of these from a positive experience, you get your experience from positive experience. Ugh. I hate English. It's such a terrible language sometimes. But you get things from a positive experience. You often better retain the proper way to do things versus you become spiteful and do things because you're just gonna prove people wrong all the time.
Yeah, like there's those people that, oh, I'm smart, but I know better than you, even though you got 15, 20 years experience. I know better than you. No.
Well, it goes the other way too.
It does. 100% it does.
Once
I've been doing this for 20 years. I know better than you do.
I've done all the refreshers for my medic or my EMT.
Yeah. But how many calls do you run a year?
Yeah.
Some places are like that. Oh, we run 120 calls a year. That's not very much experience, even though you got 20 years on the job.
Well, and this equal way too is like, so let's just say you do work somewhere FDNY, DC, Philadelphia, something like that. You have the experience, but you don't know how to tell people why it's important you do things. So, So case in point, a basic breakdown is that aspartame and diet sodas. Why is it such a big deal if somebody has blood sugar issues that they drink diet sodas? Why is that such a big deal? If you can't explain that, and you just like, well, you give all the deep cell stuff, like, oh, well, cells they innervate like this, they do. It's like you missed the point. It's like, no. Just explain to them what it is that they're doing without trying to make them feel stupid.
Right.
Because that it goes a long way.
KISS.
Again, KISS. You're keeping it simple to what it is, and then helping them understand.
Right.
In a way, it's like, oh, hey, this is why I care.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things to do, especially with new paramedics, but really paramedics basics in general, is like I do some different things, and I'll say, hey, so I might do this in this call because I'm looking for this or I'm expecting this, but I won't do it here because I'm not expecting it, and help them understand versus just arbitrarily seems like I'm just doing whatever I
Yeah.
want.
I mean, I'll give a good example. When I was going through medic school, when we were going over our acid bases stuff, having you guys help me do that on this whiteboard, that's all I needed. Learning that in a book for me doesn't help me. I can't.
Well, I remember when we were talking about that, we were talking, why do we even care about acid-base balance? What difference does it make when we
It's a big difference.
It does.
When the more you get into it, it all pieces together. Yeah. And you're like, oh, so that's why we learn about acid bases and metabolic acidosis and alkalosis. Yeah. Holy cow. It's coming together.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why we care. Like, I'm trying to think of another good example. Oh, so a barbell podcast I love listening to. They talked about like the mechanisms of heart attacks. And a study that they had cited found that there is an increased chance of cardiovascular disease in people not who are necessarily obese, but who have less muscle mass. Now, we're not talking bodybuilders muscle mass, but just less muscle mass in general. The reason why is because these are people who they get winded just walking to their mailbox. So that blood nutrients that would go to their hearts when they're sedentary is now going to everywhere except the heart. Yeah. Which is now working even harder to try to keep up with itself, which then causes damage. Now, if you know that, all of a sudden it completely changes how you look at your cardiac calls. It completely changes how you look at, grandpa who like all of a sudden having chest pain, never had it, but what'd you do different today? And then you find out that, oh, I went to the air show in Cleveland. It was up there for 6 hours out in the 95-degree sun.
People do it.
Yeah, it's like, well, what do you normally do? Oh, well, normally I just sit at home and watch Bingo, or I watch with Price is Right or whatever. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, okay.
They're not active.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden it makes sense why it's important that we look for these things.
It does, and like I said, when you think something like, oh, this is stupid, why are we learning this?
Yeah,
and like I said, and it starts to piece everything together the further you get down the road.
Yeah,
and then like you said, you'll look for this, but you're not looking for that, and then what you're not looking for happens.
Yeah,
or vice versa.
Yeah,
look at our guy today, chest pain, no bowel movement 2 days. Okay, now we're thinking, okay, he might be having something cardiac. No bowel movement 2 days. Now we're thinking somewhere different. Now
we're taking pieces, but it's experience that teaches you.
Yes,
the experience that says, okay, this is the pain that's being described, but then here's the thing: is I've had plenty of medics who I've asked them before. It's like, well, how do you know? Especially when it's a basic. Well, how do you know who you put on the EKG and who you don't? There's one patient that I got pissed off the medic because I turned it into an ALS call accidentally. That like we went and I think it was a leg injury out of a nursing home. It was something really low. It was something that did not warrant at all an EKG, and I put them on the 4 lead because all I had learned in EMT school is a system medic. We put them on the monitor. Well, I didn't know a difference between cardiac monitoring and just vitals monitoring, and it's a life pack monitor. So I put them on. The medic's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, I thought this is just what you do." It's like, no, you don't do that. You only do that in certain cases. They still didn't then explain to me why or what the difference was, but it was a moment where it's like their experience. They knew why or why not, but they never passed it on to me.
Right. You got to pass something like that on. Like, okay, this is why we weren't going to put them on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a leg injury. Did they need that? No, but they didn't need it because of this, and this, or just this.
Or like transversely too, is that, okay, so it's a leg injury. Well, what caused the fall? Oh, I was feeling a little dizzy and a little lightheaded.
Now you're going to get on the monitor, cardiac monitor.
Leg injury with dizziness and lightheadedness, and then you fell. You got 12 lead coming because now I'm expecting to find something.
Yeah. Or did you stand up and then did you fall? Orthostatic blood pressure. Again, experience too.
I had somebody ask me this. I don't remember if it was here or elsewhere, like, because we did that. We did orthostatic. And they asked me, well, how do you know? Actually, no, it was here. It was here. It's like, well, how do you know that they're not that they're orthostatic immediately or not? And it's like, guy stands up. It's like, oh, you start seeing them wobble around. I'm feeling dizzy. Okay, they're orthostatic. I don't even need to take a blood pressure. I'm going to for posterity's sake at this point. I don't need to take a blood pressure to know they're orthostatic.
Yep.
If they stand up and they pass out.
Yeah, I mean, I had a patient like that about a week ago, where it was a transfer.
Yep.
And they said, when they stand up, their blood pressure drops into 70 systolic. All right, you ain't standing up, even though they wanted to. We're like, no, we can't risk you falling.
Yeah.
And he was a big guy. It would take 3 people to stand him up, hold him up. Like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the experience that then it's like, even if you don't do it in that exact moment. Now, I found a good way to share experience and things like that is I'm explaining to the patient what I'm doing, but really I'm explaining to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so we're going to do this for this purpose. Hey, all of you take notes. I don't necessarily say it that way, but it's like, pay attention because this is.
I'm explaining to them why we're doing this.
Or again, we're back to AARs. We're on our way back from a call. You have any questions, especially with paramedic students, why we did this or why we didn't do that. Or if I know we did something, I'm going to say like this, something bizarre, just something kind of seemed a little out of place, I'll explain the reasoning to why we did that and the story behind how I learned to do or not to do that.
Oh, you got the hiccups.
Are you dying over there now too?
I might be. I think you passed it on to me. Or it's the fart spray. But yeah, like when I'm at my full-time job and we get brand new people, especially for riders doing their FTO, I try to explain this is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because especially when we're doing trauma transfers, they're automatically getting a 12 lead.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And I try to do my best to always explain they automatically do a 12 lead.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like my partner, she's not a medic, but she's in advance. Okay. Yeah. So they're still getting put on. Even me as a double basic crew, I've taken a trauma transfer and I call the hospital like, hey, do you want a 12 lead? I'm only a basic, but I can transmit it to you. They're like, please do.
Yes.
And actually the one time I did, they said, are you guys coming licensed sirens? No. Please do.
Yes.
Because I didn't know what I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh shoot, okay. They saw something. I'm not trained in that.
Yeah.
We ended up going to the cath lab.
Yeah.
It was a trauma transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Broken femur. Now he's going to get a stent.
Yeah. He's having a bad day.
Yeah, poor guy.
He's having a terrible day.
Yeah.
Though, but if no one sits there and tells you, hey, these are the parameters you're looking for, it's like, because I remember back in paramedic school, like when they teach you the end of the world kind of scenarios. You know what I mean? It's like when you do a code, you don't do like the average code where it's like you come in and they're already down. No, you do the mega code. It's, they just smoked a whole bowl of crack and then they went for a 2-mile run. And then they were doing like 50 jumping jacks after, downing 3 monsters. Right. Now they're having chest pain. Now they're dead. Now you got them back. Now they have a new rhythm. Now they're dead. No, it's like, there's nuance in there to like, hey, you get the cardiac arrest patient, how many of us have worked, we've worked the stiff where it's like, oh man, I thought it's like, and so it's like, oh, stop. And you're like, they have dependent lucidity. Hey, they're in rigor mortis. Stop.
Yeah.
Experience in school tells us charge in, go to work. Experience on the other side says, hold on, let's make sure we know what we're actually fixing before we go try fixing.
And you missed one. Are they cold or are they warm?
Yeah. Well, and that can even make a difference too. It's like in the winter, if they've been outside, they're probably going to be cold.
Yeah.
In the summer, if they're outside, they're probably still going to be pretty warm.
Yeah.
But again, then you start getting to the nuance of like knowing.
Yeah. I mean, where they teach us in basic school. If it's a cold winter, you work them till they're warm and dead.
Yeah.
That was drilled into my head when I went through basic school. Yeah.
And sometimes, especially if like you go out and it's like this person went out hiking 4 days ago and they were just found. Okay, again, some frame of reference. Yeah, they're cold and they're dead, but they've been missing for 4 days.
Yep.
and there's a foot and a half of snow on the ground.
There.
Again, yeah, use some clinical judgment there.
Absolutely.
Experience tells you, okay, like what is the most likely scenario that occurs.
Exactly. And people get the blinders.
Yes.
They they don't look at the whole picture. They just know what they were told.
Yeah. And
they just go in guns blazing.
Well, there's a thing that can save you from that, and it's something you learn from experience. But we use it with the pediatric triangle. We look at skin condition. We look at their presentation. We like and how they're responding. It's like, and you can tell pretty quick. You got a sick kid or not a sick kid. You can do the exact same with adults. You can do the same thing on car accidents.
Oh, absolutely.
You can do the same thing on structure fire. You roll up on a car accident. Everyone's walking around outside, and there's minor damage. You probably call off the cavalry. You probably don't need 3 engines, 2 med units, and the chief's vehicle rolling up on scene.
No way.
But you roll up, even if everyone's outside, and you see a car flipped over and still on its roof in the ditch, you're probably going to keep everyone coming until you get a walk around and realize, okay, we got one patient. They're already out. Let's call off the rest of the cavalry. Let's just get who we need here.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more.
Yes.
The more you have, the more dangerous it can be too, especially where we are, these back county roads. We barely get 2 cars down one road, or 2-lane highways that split, divided highway there.
Well, we had that about a month ago now. We're out in one of our the intersection of state highways. Where we had the engine parked, you barely had enough room to get 3 cars there between the light and where the accident was.
Yeah.
I'm leaving the engine parked there. The medic that we were with is like, oh, well, you guys can go back to service. We'll stay here. Now, mind you, this is minutes before I almost got hit, the stadium almost got hit, the sheriff almost got hit, and one of our other guys almost got hit, and then somebody almost took out the back of the squad.
Jeez.
It's like, and there's a reason why. Like, well, you're blocking up the intersection. You're damn right I am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna block up the entire. I'll shut down the whole road if I think I need to.
Yeah.
Because
it's safety. Yeah.
But that's something only experience tells you, and almost getting hit previously tells you, oh, hey, I want as much pushing.
And I know they teach you this in school too, how to park your engine or your apparatus, angle it.
Yeah.
I see people here that just straight on. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's protecting us, but to what extent?
Well, but then throw in another thing too. What side are your tools off of? What side are you going to be operating off of?
Yep.
Because it's great. So, if you got all your rescue tools on one side, which we do, it's all on the officer side.
Yep.
Cool. even if the accident, like let's say that the accident's on the south or on the left-hand side of the road relative to where we are, you still might come in and dive so that the tool side is facing out. The truck is exact opposite direction. It should be for protecting, but you're protecting the person who has to go get those tools from getting broadsided, having their back to oncoming traffic. Again, it's just that's what experience teaches you.
Yeah.
And you have to pass on why.
Look at our car fire that we had. When we were going out there, we were discussing on, depending on how far off the road is, which hose line you were going to pull. And when we got there, all right, we're pulling the crosslay.
Yeah.
I
would much rather pull the bumper line all day long.
Yeah.
But we're far enough off, and you got to get around it.
Yeah.
And you got to cover already 75, 80 feet. Well, I mean, yeah. It sucks to have to deal with the extra 60 feet of hose, but I'd rather have that than come up short.
Oh, absolutely. I'd rather have more than enough than not enough anytime.
Yeah. No. So I think where we we're already kind of landing there, but it's what to do with this particular problem, what to do with this particular situation, because so often we do kind of get into things like, okay, we can talk about what the problem is. We can talk about our experiences, but how do you rectify it? Like, there's any number of ways, but what are some of your ways that you try to rectify that gap?
Me personally, I try to take my experiences and with the new people, just teach them what I have learned.
Yeah.
And like when I started, okay, this is what I was doing, but someone else showed me, here, let me show you this.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to pass that on to them so they become better at their job and can be better for their patients as well.
Yeah.
I'm not always the best at it because sometimes I just get in the motions because I'm not always used to training new people either, but I try to pass my experience on. Like, I had a situation like this and I was taught, okay, this is how you're going to do this, this, and this, and those exact steps.
Yeah.
And then it just makes things better. So I just do as best as I can to pass what I've been through, what I was taught and learned to the next person.
One of the ways that I found, and this has actually been slowly changing, is if I'm going to do something, I will, even if it's something new to me, I will learn as much about it before I go and teach someone else.
Yeah.
So I become the subject matter expert of it. I might not have ever talked about Class A foam. It's not something. I mean, it's something we talk about in fire school, but it's not something we really use a lot. At least in this area, we don't. But hey, the opportunity comes up. Okay, cool. I'll give a training session on that, and I'm gonna go learn about it. The different types of Class A foam, where you're gonna use it, where you're not gonna use it, how it's different than Class B foam, how it's different than F500.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, and then I'm going to become the subject matter expert and then pass on everything I learned.
Yeah.
There.
Like I have a real good example on. So a couple weeks ago, I was working with a girl. I mean, she's only got a couple, like maybe 3 years experience, if that.
Yeah.
Just discharged at home, and she pulled into the driveway.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm not yelling at you, but don't ever just pull into a driveway because you got to look where you're at. You're on a busy, very, very busy 4-lane road.
Yeah.
When speed limit's 45. Now we got to back out into that." And her excuse was, "Well, I didn't want to stop and get hit." I'm like, "We're in an ambulance. Pull up in front of the driveway, start slowing down, turn your lights on, and pull up in front of the drive, and then back in." She's like, "Well, I don't have a backer." "Yes, you do. I'm in the back. I can still guide you from the back windows." I'm like, again, I'm not yelling at you. I'm like, but here's the thing. You got to think of it like this. Say something were to start happening on the scene, we have a faster egress out.
Yes.
And she's like, "I never thought about it." It's like, you got to think of it like that.
That's one of those things where, too, that you, it's like, we set all these like rules. So you bring up like backers. Backers are a really important thing because it's what keeps us from dinging up the sides of the building, dinging up the engine, and all this other nonsense. Tearing intakes off, tearing ladders off,
hitting shepherd hooks,
hitting shepherd's hooks. It's what does it. But there's always again some nuance to when you do and when you don't. At ER, you're not necessarily going to have a backer there to do it, to back you in. Okay, if you're the only one, you work for some of these rural departments, and you're by yourself on the med unit, you're not going to have a backer or somebody to back you into that driveway.
Yeah,
you need to use some common sense and just use some due regard, and and carefully do this because. Yeah, I mean it's just the way it is. But that's one of those times though where your experience says, okay, I know what we were taught. Yes, that's right, but also know that in these circumstances too, you don't necessarily have to do that, or you're not going to do that.
Exactly, and like I said, doing that for her makes me feel better because I'm passing on what I was taught and what I learned. Because when I first started here, I always just pulled in the driveway, and then they explained, "This is why we don't pull straight into the driveway." And I'm like, fair enough. Yeah, I know people like a lot of people say, "Well, backing up is dangerous." Yeah, it is because you can't see all around. You know, even with the trucks that have backup cameras, you can't see everything. There's blind spots everywhere. Point taken, me with the shepherd's hook. You know, but teaching her about that opened up her eyes and her mind. Okay, I need to start backing into driveways because again, something happens, I have a quicker way out.
Something else I found that I've kind of gone this way and then I go away from it, but then I find myself going back with a little bit more foresight now. Is I go and find like if if I see something like F500 is something that my full-time department uses, it's incredible stuff. It's not as good universally across the board as the
Mhm.
manufacturer said it is. And we've kind of learned that through trial and error and figuring it out. But some pretty awesome stuff is an encapsulating agent that, prevents things from reigniting, given that you don't burn off the actual agent itself, which you can do with, like,
Mhm.
say, oil fires, petroleums, that kind of thing. Like what I've found I do is I find as many different perspectives on that particular topic as I possibly can. YouTube videos,
Yeah.
articles, books, what have you. I'll go back to textbooks even to learn about things, and then I pull them all and, like, okay, what's the framework that each one is telling me? Textbook is telling me in the perfect world on the training ground in a whole army of firefighters how to do something.
Right.
The YouTube video is either showing me how to do things more in the real world, or it's showing me how to do things, like look really cool, or
Yeah.
go flashy way. And the articles are almost kind of a middle ground. It's like, oh, this is a really cool way to do this, but it only works in the perfect world.
Right.
But you could try it and it could be successful. And just seeing them piecing together from there all the different ways that things work, and then from there building out my experience that I can share, and then sharing those resources and those works cited with everyone I talk to. Like if I learn about something and we're talking about something like a particular topic, I'll say, well, hey, so between this article, this book, and this video I watched, this is how I came to this conclusion.
Right.
It's not just from one thing I saw and I thought, no, I've researched this and determined whether it was the best or not.
Right. I'm the same way. Like, if I don't know something, I am going to do lots of research on it. Again, stuff online or books or magazines, YouTube, like, big one for me, fishing.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I grew up fishing, but 2 years ago, I was like, I'm going to get back into it again, but more aggressive.
Yeah.
And I studied it just from watching YouTube, and then taking even though they were down in the South where it's a lot more warmer than it is up here, but I still applied that because there were summers too, or just like up here, and then bam, start catching fish after fish after fish. I'm like, stuff really works. But it took me, I did a lot of research on it, not just their YouTubes, but from magazines as well.
Yeah. Well, and this is kind of where you start getting into when do you start to trial this stuff. One thing that I think kills anybody who has experience and, like, shuts everyone else off to them, and it does kind of leave their experience as just the asset they hold instead of something that's actually universally available, is instead of saying, hey, I watched this TikTok, or I read this article, I want to try this on the forcible entry door, or hey, I want to try pulling the hose line this way because I want to see if it'll work. No, you see these Joes come up and say, hey guys, we're doing this wrong. We need to do it this way now.
Yeah. You're talking about forcible entry.
Yeah.
I think it might have been on a YouTube short or Facebook reel.
Yeah.
Forcible entry, the guy took, pick head axe.
Yeah.
Took the pick end of the axe, threw it into the door jamb.
Yeah.
Popped it open. I was like, okay, but was it dead bolted?
Yeah.
Was it locked? It didn't look like it. That's the thing. On an unlocked door, yeah, that's going to work. But 90% of people anymore lock their doors with a deadbolt.
Yeah. Well, it's like watching somebody go and mule kick a door or whatever. And it's like, yeah, hey, that works. I'm not going to discredit that. It does work and can work in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not, like, first of all, that could be very injurious if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen guys jack up their feet and their knees trying to do that, which is then no good for us.
Nope.
But then, too, it's like you have the tools available to do it with you. This is where it's like I will take, I did this in my forcible entry class here and at my other department. It's like, hey, cool, you want to do this. That's awesome. Just know you have the tools here that are guaranteed to get you through.
Think smarter, not harder, or work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
We got the tools. Do you want to really risk breaking your leg or tearing something to say, hey, I kicked that door in? Yeah. Give me the tools. I ain't getting hurt.
Yeah. Well, especially because then the tools have so much other utility too.
Yeah.
So I think I told this before, like funny aside, and I use this in our Force One because we can laugh about it now. Obviously in the moment, it was not very funny. But we go on structure fire. Crew gets there, beautiful, forces the door. They get the front door, they force it, break the deadbolt, go in. The latch itself had not fully seated, so it just kind of swung open. So it was still fully functional.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think to put the Halligan down to keep it from closing. They just grabbed the knob and pulled it closed till a hose line caught up with them. They didn't realize the knob was still locked. So the knob re-engages because it wasn't seated right in the first place, so it was never torn out. It seats itself, it engages, and then they go to open up the door, and the door's locked again, and now they have to force the door all over, a weakened door, no less, all over again.
Yep.
It's just one of those things where it's again, the experience tells you, hey, I have the tools. Use the tools for more than just breaking shit.
Yeah.
After you pop the door open with the Halligan, take the adze, reach in, and pull the door closed with it. Because then the Halligan, I promise you, there's no way that you're going to shear off a Halligan with any residential door.
No, I mean, another good, I'm sure you've seen it too, using a Halligan for self-extrication out of a house fire. You throw that sucker at an angle on the wall.
Yeah.
Tie your rope, and out the window you go. It ain't going to break. It's going to hold you.
Yep. And you know what? If we lose a Halligan for a bailout, fine. It's $150, $180 piece of steel versus that's worth it all day long.
Yep, absolutely.
But another way that I shared the experience, because I've thankfully never had the opportunity to bail out yet. Me
neither.
Almost falling through floors. I have never had to bail out, but the bailout rope I carry, it's basically Prusik cord. That's not even quite Prusik cord. It's enough for my weight in an emergency situation, and that is it.
Yep.
And this guy asked me, he's like, well, do you trust your life then? I'm like, yeah, I do. Well, if it breaks, I'm like, look, if it gets me from because it's really thin, it fits 100 feet of it, literally fits in my pocket. It's not quite paracord, but it's getting that close. Hey, if it gets me from 18 feet from a second story window to 8 feet of the house, and then it breaks and I fall, it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. Yeah. It's not going to suck like 18 feet does.
No,
it's going to suck like 8 feet does.
Yeah.
That's experience tells me I don't want bulky stuff in my pocket. So I will take the less bulky, more, less tensile strength rope for that purpose, because it's going to be a throwaway anyways. If I have to deploy it, I don't care if I'm getting it back. I'm just deploying it and going.
Yeah. I mean, it's cheap to replace.
Yeah. And even then, I don't care about I care about it's necessarily how fast, but I'm going to wrap that carabiner about 3 times and just go. And I don't care how fast I'm getting it. I'm getting out of that house as fast as I can. And that's the purpose. It's bailout. That's not,
It's, like you said, it's emergency situations.
Yeah.
If you lose it, you lose it. Who cares?
Yeah. And then that's the experience stuff that I pass on to others. Say, hey, you can put 1/2 inch, 20 feet of 1/2 inch rope in your pocket. Good luck. That's got to be a big old, that's going to fill up your entire pocket. You could do that, or use some thought and say, get some Prusik line, maybe not rated to the same, but at the same time, it's it's a throwaway, And I want it to be simple, fast, and if it gets broken, I don't care.
Exactly.
Those are the criteria.
Yeah, I used to carry webbing, and bulky.
Yeah.
Even daisy chain, it was still bulky. I ended up losing it. I don't know when, but I didn't care.
Yeah. Webbing can be very useful, or it can be the biggest crutch in the world. So case in point. So, and this is one of those times when, I learned from experience not to do something, but I learned in a poor way, because we've all seen that new EMT who's fresh out of school. They have their own stethoscope, they have their own blood pressure cuff, they have their own trauma shear. They basically have their own first in bag crammed into all their pockets.
Yep.
And
I see medics like that.
Facts. But no one tells you that, hey, first of all, you look like a dork. But
Yes.
second of all, you don't need all that stuff. Hey, in 10 years, I've never said, hold on a second, let me reach in my pocket and pull out, it's never happened.
Mhm.
Like to the point now that I hate wearing cargo pants, EMS cargo pants. I'd rather just wear slacks because
Yep.
it's like less stuff to get hung up on, less stuff to tear, less stuff.
Yeah.
It just looks nicer. But experience has taught me that. Now I teach, and I do a little bit more tastefully than I was done to me. But it's like, I see a new EMT and they come with like their own stethoscope and whatnot, and I say, hey, you know what? I can appreciate. Okay, maybe with a stethoscope, you don't want to be sharing everyone else's ear wax and all that. I get that. That's cool. But hey, you got a blood pressure cuff, and you got your little pulse ox you bought on Amazon there, and you got like, dude, that's all in your first in bag.
Yeah.
Well, what if I don't have my first in bag?
You should always have your
Why
first
are you going in without either a monitor or first in bag? Like
That's why it's called a first in bag.
Yeah.
It has all the stuff you'll need.
Yeah, it's like experience is telling me, hey, I'm grabbing one or the other or both.
Yep.
I'm gonna pass on the experience to you and say, hey, you need to start pre-triaging when you're hearing the call, cardiac call. I'm taking the monitor with me.
Just like today.
General medical, I'm taking the bag with me.
Yep.
Some, I'm taking both with me.
Yep.
But regardless, I will never have to reach into my pocket for my secret handy dandy blood pressure cuff.
Yep.
Because it's already there.
Yeah.
Experience tells me that's a waste of money, a waste of space.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're doing like some critical care or on a flight crew. Yeah, I can see what having all that stuff.
Yeah.
But even then, you have everything you need right here.
Yeah. Well, and it's the way I explain this is like, because I tell guys this now when they're new, because they see all the cool stuff that you amass after 10 or 15 years. Because I spent a couple $100 on a rescue helmet. It's got the visor and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's multifaceted for car accidents, for rope rescue, for water rescue, for ice rescue, all these other things. But I always preface it with saying, hey, I spent a couple $100 on this helmet because I've been doing this for, at the time, it was about 7 years, but I've been doing this for a while. I know the need where I'm going to fit in. I know where I want to be usable, and that's why I bought it. I didn't come and hear that only true firefighters wear traditional American leather helmets and gonna go out and spend $800 on a leather helmet.
Or you getting a leather helmet for $800?
I'm just throwing a number out there.
Maybe 15 years ago, yes.
Clearly, I don't own a leather helmet because I honestly don't give a shit. Sorry to all those of you who are leather helmets and smoothbore all the way, brother. You're not going to get me on board.
You're going to get some people started on that one.
Oh, yes. No, it's like you come in. Yeah, you don't need the leather boots. You don't need the leather helmet. Take what you're issued and get used to it. Yeah, it might be a little janky, but yeah, you might be uncomfortable. Get used to it, learn, talk to other guys, and then make your decision.
Yeah.
But that's the experience that I pass on, because it's like, we have a guy who he wanted to buy his own leather helmet, and then he's buying his own suspenders. And he's like, and I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Oh, well, because this Parker stuff we give us crap. Well, how do you know? Well, everyone says it's crap.
Well, who's everyone?
Who is this everyone you speak of? Second of all, is everyone, are they using the department giving stuff? Well, yeah. Okay, then clearly you with less than a year don't need to be spending $8,000 on your own personal equipment.
Exactly.
So, the fart spray monster strikes again.
Oh.
But no, I mean, this is where you take that experience to say, hey, I know it's really cool.
But is it practical?
Yes. It's not necessary.
Yeah. It's like you said, people with the leather helmets, leather suspenders, are they nice? Yeah, but are they practical?
Yeah.
Are you going to buy a leather helmet every 10 years?
You know what I've heard from more people with leather helmets now in our age is that they bought them because it was the vogue thing to do.
Yeah.
And then experience tells them 8 years later, yeah, I'm not spending $1,000, $1,500 on the new leather helmet. That's stupid.
I mean, look at New York. They got away from leather helmets, and that's all they wore for a very, very long time. Now they don't.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with the leather helmet except if it's not what you need, and you have the cheaper equivalency there. Yeah,
and a lot of people buy it because, oh, yes, it's traditional. Yeah. And for the looks of it.
Yeah. I mean, does it look good? Yeah. That stitching looks dope. But
Well, like say like for us, like for a long time, I always wanted a leather helmet.
Mhm.
I would barely got good use out of it.
Yeah.
Within 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend $1,600 on a helmet that's barely going to get used. Now, if I work for a very busy department, say like the city up north, yeah, maybe, absolutely. But again, you got to replace that every 10 years. I ain't doing it.
You know what expires every 10 years? The polycarbonate helmets, and so the leather helmets.
Yep.
You know what gets tarnished in fire no matter what? Polycarbonate helmets and your leather helmets.
Yep.
You know what is really expensive regardless? Polycarbonate or leather. But you know which one's a lot cheaper and does the same job? Polycarbonate.
Yep.
Hands down. You know. And it's like I'm looking at this and saying, well, why is this? The other thing. You know what gets crushed by a truck regardless?
Helmets.
It doesn't matter.
Yep. Those
Unless you make it out of titanium.
22 tons. Yep. They're.
It's again. It's yeah. You know.
Popcorn.
I smell it.
Better than the fart spray.
Right. But that's one of those things where it's like, again, somebody needs to come up to you and not necessarily make fun of you, but say, hey, you know, that's awesome. You love that. That's awesome. You think that's cool.
Yeah.
Do your research on it to if it's actually something you need or actually something that would be beneficial.
I mean, I almost bought one a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I did my research on them. I'm not going to name the company, but their quality has decreased since they were bought out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and a lot of people don't like them. Their qualities went downhill big time.
Yeah.
I'm like, and that's a shame because they used to be the leading producer of these helmets.
Yeah.
Some of you people know exactly who I'm talking about, you know, but I'm like, I'm not going to spend that much money on a helmet that's not going to be as good as quality it was 20 years ago.
Well, and the one thing I found is that when you start doing your research, you find that the thing that you thought was so amazing and so great actually really isn't. And since we're on helmets, I might as well just throw this out there, is that we went to replace helmets at our department a while ago. We ended up sticking with the American traditional. But we went and did, and by we, there's 2 or 3 of us who we started doing the comparables. We did price, weight, all kinds of stuff. We went crazy with this because we were trying to get away from those as our department. And what we found is that given a vast array of categories, so the categories that I remember off the top of my head that we researched into was the cost, big one for budgetary reasons.
Yes, it is.
The weight is actually a really big one. We started, and as we did more research, like, wow, actually, we should be looking for lighter helmets. They're just
because look how long you're wearing them.
Yes, and where we're going to be wearing them.
Yeah.
The brim actually became a point of contention, especially as we started looking at like RIT scenarios and we started looking at like actual deflection of heat and deflection of debris. And RIT wasn't an issue. It's like, okay, what's going to be the easiest in a RIT scenario to deal with?
Yeah.
And then overall profile, like, you know, so you go into tight spaces or you're inside of a car. This is why I bought my rescue helmet. It took only one car accident banging my helmet on every single part of a car that was on side in the ditch. And I'm like, this sucks. I ain't doing that again. We came up that the definite winner was the European helmets, the European jet fighter helmets. They were the definite winner in all categories. They were superior in every single way to the American traditional ones. The second one was the Metropolitan, the Metro helmets,
like what LA wears.
Yep. Yeah. And then there's like a hybrid between the American and the Metro, and then the American Classic was like the least like ergonomics across, but it was one of the cheapest overall.
You know, you brought up, you know, the helmets from like LA wears. I think you and I've talked about this too. You know, they wear them because you fall through a floor or something. Yeah. You don't got the big brim. You know, it's smaller. Yeah. You're not gonna jam your neck back. Yeah. I'm like, I see why they go with those now. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. It's gonna be less injury to you.
Well, and from a cancer sense too, and then from debris. So those Metro helmets, all the debris and water skins off. Yeah. And off to the sides, onto your gear and away. I've had this multiple times, especially pulling ceilings, where you get all this debris all hung up in your shield
and it
visor
just
and
sits
everything,
there.
and it's just trapped there.
Yep.
And then you're gonna take that back. It's gonna get everywhere. It's getting in the back of the apparatus. It's getting in your locker. Yeah, you knock it out, and then I'll find like months later, I'm like, there's a little piece of fuzz. I'm like, where'd that come from? Oh yeah,
Mhm.
it was that fire. We were pulling attic ceiling or whatever. It's and you're like realizing like this actually brim sucks because everyone says, oh well, it just goes out the back. No, usually it just kind of collects there, and
Yep.
it just sits there. It doesn't have anywhere to go.
Exactly. And that's why they're so big on washing our helmets. Another thing, when I first started, I didn't want to wash my helmet.
No.
They're like, you need to wash it. I was like, but why?
Yeah.
This is why you have
Yeah.
to wash your helmet. And I've seen people here not washing their helmet. Like, hey, make sure you wash your helmet. Why? I want it dirty.
Yeah.
Do you want to get cancer?
Yeah. Well, so we went to a training fire. It was at the local training facility, and it's all propane based. It's not even hydrocarbon or not hydrocarbon. It is hydrocarbon. No, it's not even like it's not like combustible material
Right.
like paper products and whatnot, like
Mhm.
pallets. So there's really no smoke when it's all said and done. A lot of heat, but no smoke. But we come back and I'm like, hey, everybody, wash your gear, wash your mask. Well, why? There wasn't any smoke. It wasn't a real fire. No, you're right. Absolutely. But you're still exposed to whatever unburned fuel elements are in that
Yeah.
propane or the natural gas that they were burning. Your mask has all of your sweat in it that is, it causes irritation and
Mhm.
whatnot later. And it also builds in the muscle memory that, hey, when I get back from a fire, gear and mask need to be washed every time. Like
Yep.
you need that muscle memory because otherwise you just forget it and miss everything else.
Exactly. And like you said, muscle memory.
Mhm.
Even if we're just doing a training, I'm going to wash my mask. I don't want to put that dirty, nasty mask back on because who knows what was secreting out of my sweat glands at that point in time.
Secreting?
Yeah.
What are you, a tree frog?
I mean, look at my name, Ribbit.
I mean, in all honesty, though, I have noticed that if I don't wash my mask after even a car fire, like I get like irritation in my eyes. Like,
Yeah,
my
like in the
eyes
corners, the outside.
start burning and everything. And I can tell almost immediately because it took me a while to figure out. I'm like, why am I like, every time I put my mask on, like I'm getting irritation around my. Now I get. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's a training fire, car fire, structure fire. It doesn't matter. All that sweat, all the debris, whatever got
Mhm.
in there, just sits there and percolates.
Yep.
And now it's getting in and it's irritating my eyes. I wash my mask, my eyes don't get irritated anymore. It's like a
Right.
miracle.
Yeah, it's like new people's like, oh, it's just a little car fire. Do you know what's in these cars?
Mm-hmm.
There's some nasty shit in them
Yeah.
cars. A lot, especially with the rubber, the fuel, the refrigerant, even the interior. That stuff is nasty.
Yeah. Well, and this was so we went on fire with the mutual aid department, and it was first. It was a very defensive fire. I won't even say at first. No, it was very defensive fire. But it got to a point at first, like it wasn't too bad. There's still smoke products. We should have been wearing masks from the very get go. But we got into it. We're still exterior. And we're like, you know what? Let's go back, put our masks on, and pack up, fully pack up the way we should be, because we had like we're breathing enough smoke, and it's like we don't need to be breathing this stuff in.
No.
Experience has taught me that is really bad, and I will now profess to anyone, hey, always pack up. I don't care if it's a car fire or a trash fire, especially a trash fire. Pack up. You don't need to be breathing that. That's
Yeah.
nasty.
I remember years ago, we had a fire here, and it was pretty much down to the ground, you
Yeah.
know, and we were just putting out hot spots. But we all took our masks off,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still in there. Yeah, I got my hood up over my nose and face. What's that doing? Nothing. Didn't know that at the time.
No.
So came back here, and me and another guy, we were feeling very dizzy, lightheaded. We didn't feel right. Guess what?
Still breathing.
Yep. Almost. We were almost to the point where we both had to go to the hospital.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like getting more now, like post structure fire. I mean, we've learned this through our experience. Is hey, you go in with the CO monitor, and if that thing's still whizzing and dinging, Even the
Put your mask on.
Yeah, you keep your mask on. Even for the fire investigators,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to put on just a regular respirator yet. You keep an air pack on until that thing stops swinging, wasn't dinging, and then even then, it's still recommended that you stay packed up for a significant time afterwards because of all the off-gassing materials,
Yeah.
especially if it's still smoking and steaming. That's off-gassing. But again, these are the experience things that you have to pass on. You have to learn about.
Yeah.
It's really important to learn about like what kind of materials are in these. So not just so you can be a part of the conversation of the old man. Fires are just all chemicals now. It's like no, every fire is chemicals. Any incomplete combustion is chemicals. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter whether it's wood or if it's actual like furniture.
Yep.
It's just a matter of which ones they are. Because here's the thing: you can get cancer for breathing in campfire smoke. As much as we all love that, it burns your eyes. There's a reason why it burns your eyes. Yep. It's acid.
Mind blown.
I know, right? But again, this is where you take the experience and you pass it on.
Yeah.
And say, okay, it's not just my thing. I'm holding in. I give it to someone else so they understand.
Exactly.
That's really. I mean, this is is a recurring theme we really have. But that's how we change generations.
Yes.
Is not just by insisting that they do better, but showing them how to do better.
Yes.
No.
Better, safer, more efficient.
Yeah.
Make it easier for them too. We learned a hard way, and we're learning easier ways. Let's teach them the easier ways.
Yes. Yes. The reason why we don't use 1-inch hose lines anymore. A lot of people don't know the actual reason why. They just know more water equals better. They don't know they don't know all the other nuance behind the friction loss.
Yeah.
And behind the gallonage limits, and behind the fact that 1-inch hose line just does not maintain its shape well.
Right.
But I mean, I guess rubber, you're really heavy rubber, but that's totally different thing. But if you don't ever teach, you'll never understand.
100% correct.
Well, I think that is enough for one night. Honestly, this ended up taking over an hour, as it was even with Captain Fart Spray. So even with our interruptions. So yeah, we'll be back next week and a half ish, somewhere in there.
Probably.
This in a time. We'll be back. The next topic we're gonna do is your traditions mean nothing to me if I don't understand them. Which I feel like we've already kind of started segueing into a little bit now.
Kind of like part 2.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Experiences part 2. Experiences in your traditional sense. No,
yeah.
But yeah, we can almost dive in right now on that.
Oh,
we could do a double whammy here if we really wanted to.
I gotta be back here at 6.
Okay. Well, we'll save it. But yeah, no. So yeah, keep listening. Keep giving us ideas. I know we are terrible at the whole interacting with the audience kind of deal. But if you could share your experiences with I think of one video I saw was 26 people who actually listened to it. Thank you, by the way, for that. It's I'm starting to see numbers slowly creeping up and everything else. Sorry, the first ones are so crunchy audio. We're getting better, I promise.
Slowly but surely.
But yeah, share your experiences in this, and share the things that you did to try to circumvent it, or share the ways that, hey, I made a mistake and didn't circumvent it. I was the asshole who just expected somebody to know, and then why you realized that didn't work.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But yeah, so until next time, I've been Tim.
I'm Jeremiah.
And this has been Conflict of Lear Coffee Table Edition, which I realized just now forgot to completely introduce the podcast at the very beginning.
That's okay.
It's fine.